So, folks, we've got another guest in this week who's got his finger on the pulse of South Carolina's habitually disturbing, troubling fiscal issues, particularly state spending. And if you follow this media outlet, you know we spend a lot of ink focused on how state lawmakers are handling the state budget. But sometimes we don't go into the weeds on the budget itself. And a guy here who is primed potentially to have a real impact in that process, Mike Burkhold. I want to thank you, Mike, for joining us. Now, you're originally from just around the corner, right
Yep.
here, Chapin, South
Grew up in
Carolina.
Chapin, yeah.
But you're down in the Low Country now.
Yeah, we live down in the Charleston area now.
Well, before we dive into the issues, your candidacy, some of these fiscal issues that are so pressing for the state of South Carolina, give our audience a little bit of background on you, who you are, how you came to the Palmetto State.
Sure. So grew up in Chapin. My family's a long Palmetto State family. Went down to the College of Charleston, and like most people who do, just really loved Charleston. We moved up to my wife and I moved up to the Rock Hill area for a while. I had a short stint as the town administrator of the town of Clover. It was about 4 years. Really loved Clover. It was just a great little town up in western York County. And about that time, I decided I've always been interested in politics. I was a political science major at the college. It was probably time to take a run for office, and so I decided I was going to run against John Spratt, who was, I think, a 16-year incumbent at the time. Seemed like the type of thing you do when you're young and broke, and you just got to go for it, or when but really without a family, right? You didn't have the family dynamic to deal with because it's a big commitment of time, or to do like more when you're my age. And so I took a ran at it. And had a good race. It was just a tough year for Republicans. It was at 98, year 98 when Beasley was the governor and lost his reelect. But we had a good race, launched it with Oliver North, and Newt Gingrich came in and campaigned for me. We were one of the top 10 targeted races in the country. After that loss, and losses sting. I mean, you put your heart and soul into it, right? And you really believe you want to make a change. Decided to move back down to Charleston, and I had an opportunity down there, and ended up being in a couple of different medical-related businesses. And then 2009, I started my own, which is a company called Equascript. And for 15 years, well, really longer than that, it was 15 years I built it out, took in a large investment in 2019.
Well, give us a little history. This is a company it's in the Medicaid realm. Walk us through the...
Sure. It's not really in the Medicaid realm. Equascript focuses on helping safety net facilities. So this would be disproportionate share hospitals, which are like MUSC. But largely our business is focused on community health centers.
Oh, okay.
So community health centers would be like Eau Claire here in town, or Fetter down in Charleston, or Tandem over in Sumter. These are organizations that serve generally underserved areas. So nationally, picture deeply urban, right? Like we've got clients in downtown LA, or more rural, where you're less likely to have a primary care provider. And so these organizations get some federal subsidies to provide primary care in those underserved areas. And we help them manage a drug inventory program they have. And so it's essentially a software business.
Data-driven.
Yeah, a data-driven software business. We have, records on, millions of patients and prescriptions and inventory, and, every pharmaceutical claim is essentially a transaction that equals money and is tied to payments. And it's been a nice company. I've been blessed.
And this was after your first foray in politics?
This was after, yeah.
Okay.
I started this in 2009.
Okay.
And at this time, I had really just, I was interested in politics, but I had thought my run had kind of come and gone. And I was raised to believe in civic duty, and I didn't serve in the military, and I really kind of related my time running for office as my time fighting for the country. And when I say I pieced out, it just wasn't running. I was still certainly interested and kept up with it, right? But I really enjoyed building that business, and went through all I started in my living room, went through all the process you go through of doing that. Your first employee, making your decision about when you can hire your second employee, not taking home any money because you've hired your third employee, and now you're worried about feeding your family. I had kids at the time when I started this, all the hard decisions that come along with building a business, all the things from those
It's
really
not for the faint of heart,
tough
man.
times. It's not. I mean, it really isn't, and it's one of those things. It's good. It's good for entrepreneurs that they underestimate how hard it's going to be.
Mhm.
Because if you really knew how hard it
Nobody would
was,
do
you,
it.
you might not do it. Yeah. And, but it's been great. I mean, it's a great run. It's been a successful business. Been able to hire a lot of people. One of my favorite things about it um, has been being able to hire people and watching them grow and then helping them progress in their career. That's one of the hidden pieces of it. Like when you're building a business and you build out your spreadsheet, those are the hidden pieces that you don't really anticipate.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that.
So what drew
Um,
you back? What prompted you to say, you know what, I've been following this stuff, been kind of on the edge. I tried it once before. What made you decide to give it a second jump?
I think I was sitting out on my porch and I might have been doom scrolling your website. Um, and I saw this headline about the state misallocating or missing. I can't remember which article it was, $3.5 billion. And I think I went on to the next article and it was almost like seeing something out of the corner of your eye, right? You're
Hmm.
like, what was that?
Go, wait a
You go
minute.
back and it was really this kind of progression of like, okay, the state's misallocated $3.5 billion. I think at the time, the article, it wasn't really clear what had happened. It was still under investigation, but then that triggered kind of this thought about like, well, how big is the budget, right? Because if $3.5 billion can go missing, because what was at the time it was missing, it's like, wow. I mean, what's going on with the budget? And so that wasn't actually that easy to find.
Hmm.
How big is our budget? You've got general funds, other funds, and then federal match. It seems to me like most of our communication out of the state on our budget is designed to confuse or obfuscate. It's
Imagine that.
certainly very cloudy, right?
Mhm.
I was so I started digging, and I'm a good researcher, and I have this general sense that we spend too much money, right? Because it just seem like we keep spending more and more money. The budget's grown by an enormous amount, but I don't have any. I can't find any facts about that because I can't find the expenses. I can't find what we're spending the money on,
Mhm.
right? I can't find anything that's useful about where head count's gone, or maybe asphalt just costs a lot more than it used to. I can't get any context out of the information that's available to me, and that became very frustrating to me.
Just as a
Um,
taxpayer, as a citizen.
yeah, just as a citizen, and I mean, I'm trying to rationalize, right? Well, like, well, where does all of our money go? Is it being spent in the right place? And there's really nothing that gives me good guidance on that
Mhm.
at just a basic level. Um, the controller's office does have some spreadsheets you can download, like the vendors we've paid the most money to, but there's no context,
Mhm.
right? So if you've paid a large construction company, $800 million, it doesn't tell you like how many projects it was over or if they were over or under budget or any of that
Yeah.
type
What
of
was the
information.
outcome?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
None of that stuff. And so it just seemed to me like having built a data-driven business that we've got a real opportunity to take the data in the state's accounting system and create some reports and dashboards that can help every citizen, including our legislators, make better decisions about how we spend our money.
Mhm.
And um, that that to me is very appealing. It seems like something, or it's something certainly that I know how to do, and something that's achievable. Almost as if there's a deliverable in this particular role,
Right.
right? There's something to be achieved in this controller's office, and I think as you look at that office, um, it's been a weak office. It's been managed as a weak office, but that office should be a robust, strong office. I mean, it manages the state's accounting system,
Mhm.
and everything that the state spends goes through that system. So there's an enormous amount of data, and there should be no mystery about where all our money goes. That's the problem that I want to solve.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned just a minute ago that what you want to do is achievable. I know you've looked at other states that have these robust
Right. Yeah.
comptroller offices in place. Walk us through what's a state South Carolina should model itself after on this.
So Ohio has a really nice website. It's checkbook.ohio.gov. You can go onto that website and see state spending for the past 5 years. It's got nice drill downs. A drill down is when you can click on a bar and it opens up and you can see, okay, this was our spending, and then it might break down into departments like transportation and education, and you can then drill down into fine expenses. Like, this is what we spent. Then you go to transportation, then you go to the contractors and you see what the projects were, and you can kind of see all this information. You can start to get context. It's the type of thing that if you were, depending upon the level of research you want to do, if you were a high school student or you want to do a doctoral thesis on how government works, all the information you would need is there. But certainly if you want to be an informed voter, it has everything you need to have an opinion about if we're spending our money in the right places or not. And so Ohio is a great state.
And that's the sort of thing we could do here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's nothing but data put into tables and through a series of reporting tools that we should have here. I think, absolutely every citizen should have transparency in all this data. Sunlight should be on the data. There should be no secrets about the money that we pay in taxes. I mean, after all, it's not like voluntary dues. I mean, they take it from us by force. And
and so here at a much higher rate than a lot of southeastern states.
Absolutely right. And you have to wonder, well, why? Right? Why does this happen? Are we spending it? And this goes back to the whole question about why I need to see the data. It's almost like, as I started looking at it, it's almost as if somebody came and asked me, can we turn around a company? And I asked for the books, and they said, well, we don't really have any books. we can't show you the details. First thing you'd say is, well, no, you can't, because if you don't have access to the financials, you're not going to achieve anything. But if we have access to the financials of our state and we can inform ourselves, we can make better decisions, and we can help our legislators make better decisions.
Now, there's a guy down in your neck of the woods, Rom Reddy. He's founded a movement called DOJSC. He's looking to employ AI to address a lot of these fiscal issues, particularly on the regulatory side.
Yeah.
But as you look at it's kind of interesting because a lot of what you're talking about with the spending transparency effort seems to mirror in some ways what DOJSC is trying to accomplish. But again, the ultimate objective, it seems to me, of both efforts is accountability over the spending of those tax dollars.
It is. That's absolutely right. I'm a huge fan of what Rom's trying to do. Rom, I think when I read his post, I think he's really going after the bureaucratic state and their propensity to just make up rules, which they do. I mean, I've been on the wrong side of that in the federal government, more so than the state government in my business, where it's a real struggle. As a business person, you ask an attorney for help you understand a law, and they come back with this wishy-washy type of answer. That's not something you can build a business on, but that's all because regulators will change the way they treat the laws. And that's not something that should happen. You should be able, as a citizen, you should be able to read the law and understand what it means. It should have the plain meaning without a lot of different interpretations. And I think that's what Rom's trying to get at, and I 100% support that. But it is also about overly maybe bloated or aggressive bureaucratic state, which I suspect that we have in South Carolina, where the bureaucracy is leading the way in a lot of initiatives. And I suspect it's not what he sees in regulation. Is the same thing happening in the budget. I suspect that these departments are setting their budgets and they just stick with it, and they eventually get it approved without a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah, and you've got adding to that, all of those automatic increases are flowing through this very antiquated system of government that's really based on a constitution that's completely out of date.
That's right.
Very little appetite to change that because the folks in power, whether they had a D on their crest back in the 90s, in the 80s, now flipping over to the R, it doesn't seem as though the MO of government has changed much. The party labels have changed, but it doesn't seem as though the basic nature of our government has shifted.
I agree with that 100%. I don't think there's I can't tell there's any meaningful difference in the way that our state's run now than it was when I was 20.
Mm.
I interned for Strom Thurmond, um, so I got a good view of that.
As a
Um,
businessman, when you say something like that, when you hear those words come out of your mouth, it's
well,
depressing.
for me, it means you need to get back into politics. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, I'm 56 now.
Hmm.
Um, I'm either going to like wait for the generation before me to fix things or the generation after, which doesn't seem fair. I'm in a spot now where I can do this, and it means it's time to change. I'm in my business. I've been fortunate to travel all around the country, and this is an amazing country, just an amazing country. I can't think of a better place to live than South Carolina, and I just love this state. Um, Here's the thing that excites me about even this role as controller, is I think South Carolina um, is in a spot where we could go straight up. I mean, I think we can be the best state in the country. It's great. We've got great natural resources. It's a beautiful state. It's a manageable size. We're not covered in all kinds of obligations like California or New York, right? We've got a lot to work with,
A lot of
and
people want to
a
come here.
lot of people want to come here. And I have. That's another thing that's inspired me to get back in and run. Is I've got a lot of neighbors down in the Charleston area who have moved here. They've moved their families here. They moved here because they want to live in a red state, and they're disappointed about the shade of red of the state they landed in. And but they've been very successful in life, and they're bringing their family and their money, and they're starting businesses. I mean, this could be the beginning of a golden era for South Carolina. I mean, like if New York decides they're going to go communist, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
we should be passing out pamphlets, right? Come to South Carolina, but as a part of that, we don't need to be paying companies to come here. I just want to be clear about that. We don't need to be living back in the Carroll Campbell days. And the Boeing thing, I think, was unique. It's just it's Boeing. It's one.
Right.
But if we can fix our tax code and fix our roads and fix our education, which are fixable, I think it could be just a boon for the state. And a rising tide lifts all boats, and so everybody in the state will benefit from that.
Now, South Carolina politics, particularly in Republican primaries, it's blood sport. It's
Sure.
notoriously cutthroat. Certainly, you'll likely have a primary opponent at some point in this race. But I wanted to ask you just about sort of the overarching political landscape that you see as you enter this race. Obviously, there are factions in the Republican Party. There's a group of Republicans, fiscal conservatives, trying to push the quote establishment further to the right on some of these key tax issues we've been discussing, trying to get more tax relief, trying to get less pork barrel spending in the budget, trying to get more transparency over spending and outcome-based results. Where do you see yourself falling in this Republican schism, so to speak?
That's been an interesting adventure for me. I state where I land on things, and then I just kind of let it fall where it is. I can tell you that nobody, even some of my more liberal neighbors, so from the most conservative folks I know to my more liberal neighbors, I've got a couple of them, love the idea of transparency and having the checkbook online. Everybody loves it. And this is my mission. I'm going to bring transparency to state expenses. And so because that's been my position, I found that it just cuts all ways, and everybody thinks that that's a reasonable thing to do. So I've not been as buffeted by some of those issues, but I have observed it.
Yeah.
I absolutely have observed it. But my mission is to create transparency so we can all have a view into the way that our money's spent and have opinions about it.
Yeah.
Informed opinions, right? Like not just guesses.
So I want to ask you, we go back to 2023 when Richard Ekstrom, who held this office for decades, resigned that office in the aftermath of this $3.5 billion anomaly, I think is what he referred to it as. Governor of South Carolina replaced him with a Democrat. And in fact, South Carolina, as you mentioned earlier, folks questioning the shade of red, this was another decision. A lot of folks said, well, wait a minute, we've got Republicans appointing these positions. We've got Republicans in the legislature who would approve them. What are we doing putting Democrats in charge of this office? I mean, did that pick surprise you?
It has. I mean, there have been some other ones that have surprised me as well. I think some of the health department folks. I don't see those appointments as very visionary.
Mm-hmm.
I see I see the appointment, particularly to the Comptroller's office. I mean, Gaines was a state employee, as more of a bureaucratic placeholder. So kind of more of the same. Just I expect they thought he wasn't going to, rock any boats.
He's not proposing a massive unveiling of spending and
no.
Right.
I don't know what the acceptance of that's going to be in Columbia, but it needs to be done. But I know there's no real initiative to say, look, if we introduce transparency, we can make better decisions, we can have better financial results, we can have better audit results, we can have it's just going to be better for everybody. I don't see any vision going on in that office. Maybe I already mentioned, I think the office has just been a weak office, and it should be a robust, muscular office. It's supposed to be, the state's accountant first, obviously, and there were a lot of balls dropped there.
Clearly.
And then it's supposed to be I think even on their website it says the taxpayer watchdog. I'm not seeing a lot of that going on. I mean, the way that you would do that is you would make the citizens aware of duplicative spending, waste in areas. You would have a comment on these things. I think there's a great opportunity in that office to have comments about the misuse of funds. And I don't mean, obviously criminal things. Obviously, I mean that you should have comment about that, but I mean just ill-advised spending. That goes on in every organization. I don't hear any comment coming about that out of the state anywhere. I mean, as I mentioned,
it's almost like they want it to keep rolling, the gravy train to keep rolling.
Yeah, it's the gravy train, and it's also just the culture of I don't know, just more of just this government type of culture, and not more the entrepreneurial culture that I find so appealing. I mean, you've built your own business. Anybody who's gonna be successful will try things, and they either work or don't. Well, it's only in government that you just keep doing the things that didn't work, right? And so you need to find the things that are not being efficient. Without transparency in the data, we don't even have any idea about which programs aren't working. And the data is not just the expense data, right? Like the payroll data, the controller runs the payroll system, would show you headcount. And it might even show you churn. Churn in any organization can mean different things, right? It might mean there's some bad management going on because employees aren't staying. To help identify places that need to be fixed. So there's going to be an enormous amount of data in the accounting system that can help us run a better state and just have a better state.
Let me throw a tough question at you. Let's say you campaign for this office successfully. You win the Republican nomination, which in South Carolina is basically winning the race. You're elected, sworn in January 2027, and begin to implement this spending transparency initiative. Let me ask you a tough question. How do you get folks to understand it, to care about it, and to have those responses create the pressure we need to actually effectuate change? How do we go from implementing it to making it work, making people care?
It's the lift, right? Most people don't even know what the Controller General does, right?
I mean, people are busy. They got all these.
Yeah, right. But I think with its charts, I'm fairly good at communicating. I think explaining why things are helpful as I think about people on X that do good about communicating these things. I think Mark Anderson does a good job of making, kind of long form comments about things and why they're important. One of the things that I think we're missing is respecting taxpayers' intelligence. I mean, taxpayers are smart. People are out there working hard. They can understand things. Just give them the information they need. So I think The combination, there's several things that I think with this office will make it different than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, maybe it was just an accounting office. But right now, if you look at this, the controller runs the state's accounting system. That's an enormous amount of information that the public should have access to. There are great reporting tools, as I mentioned, where you can put charts online that are now easily available. There's machine learning and artificial intelligence that can make sense of some of these things in a quick way. And then there are also social media platforms that are well adapted towards small subjects and putting that out there. And so, look, I'm not expecting everybody to totally geek out on the state's finances, but if they want to, they should be able to. And so it is a bit of lift, getting some recognition, getting some traction, and then also what we want to do is make government efficiency cool, right? We want to make cost cutting cool, finding wins in the budget, places where we can stop spending it in the wrong place and start spending money in the right place, or cut taxes, or do any of those things. We want to make that popular and exciting, because
so you'd be willing to use your position to lobby lawmakers for cutting items that they shouldn't spend. You'd be willing to use that office as a bully pulpit with the public to draw attention to some of those items?
Wow. Yeah. I thought that's what I was saying the whole time. Yeah.
A lot of folks are very scared of the legislative state here. You know, they don't want to rock the boat. They worry.
Well, maybe, you know,
I'm not afflicted with that.
Yeah. I mean, no, I'm not afraid of anybody. I mean, I'm not like, I've got a nice life. I mean, I've got plenty of friends, got great places to hang out. I'm not looking to come make new friends. I enjoy meeting new people. But I mean, I think my goal is to come up here and try to sit in this seat and fix as much as I can with the information that I have access to. And I think that this seat has access to an enormous amount of information that our taxpayers don't know. Here's what I would say about this. But I think even within a 4-year period, even within a 2-year period, depending on how soon I can get that information up, if all I ever achieve in Columbia is exposing the state's budget, that will forever change every future discussion about how we spend money, and that's worthwhile in itself. That's my view on it. If that's just the one thing I can do, I think that will have a meaningful impact, because we will have provided the citizens of the state the information they need to, talk to the legislators about things that concern them. Legislators, I have talked to more than a few who also don't have access to a lot of the information I think they need access to. So I want to put that out there. I think my experience will allow me to build dashboards and data information that can help our legislators vote in a more informed manner. I don't think they have access to all the information they would like to have. I've had several tell me they have to FOIA information to get to it, and that's inexcusable. Everything that we spend should be public.
It's our money.
Yeah, I mean, it's basic stuff.
Mike, this is a state a lot of folks have talked about the keys to unlocking the potential, and you were talking about it earlier, and I certainly agree with you that the spending transparency, putting these individual itemized expenses out there, but like you said, dropping it down so people can drill in. So reporters like me can drill in, particularly if we've got a tip about something that may not be right. We can go in and get it.
How many stories are in that data? I mean, there's got to be a lot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them. I mean, like we could say, well, the story that we end up with is, the state's the best run state in the country. I don't think that's where we're going to land.
Likely not.
Maybe it's not a total debacle, but there's a lot of stories in there about opportunities that we missed, or opportunities that we now have, or great stories, right? Or things that went wrong. And how do we learn from lessons? I mean, that's how you improve, right? You make mistakes, you fix them, and you try not to repeat them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mike, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come in. By the way, I've got to say something here. I've spent this entire interview, we have not once drawn attention to the award-winning mustache. But like I said, I've been admiring it this entire interview. I mean, is it true you won an award for this thing?
Yeah, well, I've competed in a couple of mustache contests. They were fun. I was tackled into doing it. Yeah, there's a couple in Charleston that are fun to go to. They're fundraisers. Yeah.
The thing is, seriously, I don't know what, should go get my Raleigh Fingers baseball cards and maybe autograph one of them or something. That's awesome, man.
That's right. That's the reference I get quite often is Raleigh Fingers. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in, man. Appreciate your efforts on this issue. Keep us in the loop as your campaign starts ramping up. Anything we can do to help draw attention to it, please let us know because, again, what you're doing is critically important. And, again, one of the keys, as we mentioned earlier, to unlocking South Carolina's potential.
Thank you, Will. And I appreciate what FITSNews does for the citizens of the state and getting information out there. So I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.